In this video, we're going to be talking about the MR002 Millyard Racing mountain bike with a single-sided swinging arm, fully integral drive and hydrogas suspension. It was revolutionary in its day, and some say it's still revolutionary now. But anyway, we'll be testing it at the Forest of Dean in this video, so you can see how it goes. I made 4 downhill mountain bikes between 2006 and 2008. This is the MR003 that I made for Bernard Kerr to race in the British Nationals and the World Cup Series. And he did really well. He got on the podium at the British Nationals and I was well pleased with that. The bike had specific geometry requirements that Bernard specified. It's very similar to an Orange 222 of the period. The single-sided swinging arm contains an 8-speed Epicyclic Gearbox and all the drive chains to drive the power from the front cranks down to the rear wheel spindle. Many parts are made from aluminium plate that I machined up on my milling machine or lathe, or even by hand with files. The rear disc brake and rear axle are a part of the swinging arm and remain on the bike when the rear wheel is removed. And here you can see the frame being constructed on the jig. I managed to fit the whole bike into the milling machine vise to make fine adjustments to the brake mounting points. Most of the parts I had to make on the bike were round, but I only had square bar, but this didn't matter. I put it in a 4-jaw chuck and machined it round on my lathe. The MR003 and MR001 both ran 26-inch wheels and had virtually identical geometry. The MR001 was one of the fastest bikes ever tested by Dirt Magazine in 2006 on their secret 104 track in Wales. All 4 Millyard Racing downhill bikes have an integral Epicyclic 8-speed gearbox that can be shifted while you're pedalling hard, coasting, pedalling backwards, up or down the box, and also if you fall off and you're stationary, you can shift from 8th to 1st instantly and then pull away without a single glitch or a click or a graunch. Another feature of the internal drive system was the chain was contained within the swinging arm running in oil, not on the outside of the bike where it's slapping around on the swinging arm, catching on rocks, and broken derailleurs are a thing of the past. The MR002 was the same as the MR003 with single-sided swinging arm. Stephen used this to race the National Downhill Series and local regional races between 2008 and 2009 to great success. The bike was retired at the end of the 2009 season, then kept in the shed until 2014 when he got it out, brushed off the dust and took it to the national races. Stephen's most impressive result during the 2014 season was at Bike Park Wales during the BDS, where he scored the second fastest time through the speed trap, only 0.15 mile an hour below the fastest time of the day across all categories.
Stephen Millyard into first, 0.9 of a second into the lead.
The MR002 was now approaching 8 years old, so we thought it was time to update its geometry. So I got out the original jig, cut it up, changed the angles, and we made a new front frame and revised the swinging arm to include a floating rear brake. Then we had the whole lot powder coated bright red, so it really stood out on the track. At the end of the 2015 season, Stephen decided to pull out of mountain bike racing, so the MR002 was again destined to the shed. Then, a couple of weeks ago, we decided to get it out of the shed, clean it up, and then maybe take it to the Forest of Dean to test it against modern bikes, just to see how it still works. The bike needed some new tyres, and Jeff at B Tyre Co kindly sent us some, and they arrived the very next day. Hello? Is that Stephen?
Right, Dad, what's up?
Your tyres are here. When can you come over?
Oh, brilliant. I've just moved you, so I'll head over now.
What, straight away? That'd be brilliant. See you in a bit. Bye. A few minutes later, Stephen arrived with the MR002 and we lined up the tyres to look at them. And I said to Stephen, you put the back tyre on because it's easy, because we don't even have to take the wheel out. You just pull the tyre off and change it, just like that. With the back tyre changed, he popped out the front wheel and changed that as well. And then we head into the garage to pump up the tyres to 45 psi. With both the tyres pumped up, the next thing I did was take out the front forks. These have the Millyard Racing Hyperride 2 insert, like a hydrogas system, and one of the bump stop rubbers was a little bit worn and I needed to replace it. So the forks had to be stripped right down, and then I'm going to make a new rubber on my lathe. The Hyperride 2 strut just unscrews from the top and pulls straight out. I give it a quick bounce on the floor and I'm really pleased that it's still pressurised since 2015 and it felt really smooth, so I was well pleased with that. This is the bump stop rubber I got to replace. It goes in the other fork leg and it stops the top out sound. So I use a bit of 1 inch thick rubber, mark it out with my dividers and go into my shed to cut it out on my bandsaw. The rubber sheet cuts really nice on the bandsaw using a coarse toothed blade. You mustn't push too hard as it'll burn. Also you've got to watch your fingers, but I got there in the end. With a little disc of rubber cut out, I go back into the garage and put it in my lathe between 2 sockets like pressure pads, squashing the rubber in between, and then cutting it with a very sharp tool. The tool actually cuts under the surface of the rubber, making like a rubber band. But that just pulls off with your finger afterwards. The next thing to do is drill a hole in the centre so that it'll pass over the damper rod. With the hole drilled, I offer it up to the damper rod and it fits perfect. I'm well pleased with that. So now it's time to clean out the fork lowers using some white spirit and a plastic brush. After doing it by hand for a few minutes, I thought, why not use my electric drill? That's much easier. Just whiz it in and out, and it's done in a second. Totally clean. With all the parts cleaned, I go back in the garage to put the forks back together. So first I pour in some oil, then put the stanchions in, followed by the Hyperride 2 strut, drop a few screws, and take it back out and fit it to the bike. With the forks and front wheel fitted, we turn the bike over, and it looks amazing. So we park it against a tree to have a look and have a little walk around the bike. So the front forks are Fox 40s with a Hyperride 2 strut insert, and the bike still has its uplift passes on the handlebars from 2016 when it was last used. As part of the 2015 upgrade, we re-spoke the wheels to 27.5 inch and they just fitted, which was brilliant. The width across the rear is only 80mm, which allows you to take some lines where you can't normally go on a mountain bike with derailleurs. You can slip down between rocks, go down between tree roots with no trouble at all. And this bike now has an 11-speed Epicyclic Gearbox compared with the 8-speed of the earlier version, and it fits in the same place perfectly. I had to do some modifications on my lathe and change some sprockets, but it was quite an easy job and it fits perfect. And what a difference, it transformed the bike. And here it is, shifting through the gears, exactly the same as the MR003. You can shift under power, coasting, whilst pedalling backwards or stationary, up and down all 11 gears. The back wheel is held on by a single bolt right in the centre, and it's very easy to remove. You just use one 30mm socket, loosen it off and pull the wheel off, and the disc stays on the bike with the brake. To replace the wheel, you simply slide it back on the shaft and replace the bolt. With the bike all back together, it's time for Stephen to hit the trails, so he takes it to the Forest of Dean.
How's she running?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Just need a bit more pressure in the rear, I think.
Let's pump her up.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon 27 should do it. That's perfect.
Well, the boys had just got back from the Forest of Dean. They had a great time on the Millyard Racing 002. It went really well. It's been in retirement since 2015, but we got it out, we gave it a clean up, fitted some new tyres by the V Tyre Company, and it goes great. We're really chuffed. We put up some decent air on the jumps, and Stephen had a really great time. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you again soon.